Thank you. To introduce to you the senator, the man, the friend, the person who has helped bring all of us here together today, Senator Bernie Sanders.
You know, I was told that you have a little bit over 100,000 people in Greeley. And between the 6,000 who are outside, 4,000 who are here, I think we got 10% of the community at this rally right now. Thank you. I want to say a word about Alexandria. When Alexandria was a kid, and you correct me if I'm wrong, she cleaned houses with her mom in order to make enough money for the family to survive. And then after she graduated college, she was a barista working paycheck to paycheck. But what she did as she looked around her and in her community in Bronx, New York, is she saw that change had to come. And so what she did is decided to run for Congress, and people said, "What, are you kidding? The guy who represents the district was one of the most powerful members of Congress. He had access to unlimited kinds of money." How much money did you have when we started? You started?
None.
None. All right. But she did what real politics is about. Real politics is not sitting at $1 million fundraisers. It's working with people in your community. And she worked hard, and her friends worked hard, and she pulled off a major upset. And since then, she has been a great member of Congress, but not only that, she has been an inspiration to millions of young people all across this country. Now, the reason I say all of that is not just to praise Alexandria, and I love her, but is to tell you and the people of America that what Alexandria did, you can do. There are millions of young people out there who love this country, who are disgusted with what they are seeing, who are prepared to get involved in the political process. So, Alexandria, thank you for being that inspiration. So why are Alexandria and I here today. Why will we be in Denver later this evening? Why were we in Tempe last night when there was an unbelievable number of people coming out? Las Vegas earlier than that. And we'll be in Tucson tomorrow. Why are we doing that? And we're doing that because this country faces a set of enormous crises. And how we respond to this moment will impact not only our lives, but the lives of our kids, future generations, and in terms of climate change, will impact the future of this planet. And what I have to tell you is that given the huge turnouts we have seen already on this trip, it is clear to me that the American people are outraged at what's going on. And the American people are saying loud and clear, we will not accept an oligarchic form of society. We will not accept the richest guy in the world running all over Washington, making cuts to the Social Security Administration, cuts to the Veterans Administration, almost destroying the Department of Education, all so that they could give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 1%. But it's not just oligarchy we've got to deal with. Under Trump, this country is moving very rapidly to an authoritarian form of society. Today, we have a president who is undermining our Constitution every single day, who is threatening freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. You know, I look back at the civics class that I took in the 6th grade a few years ago. And you probably took the same class. We studied American history. We studied the Constitution. And it's important to remember what we learned back then, and that is that the founding fathers of this country, way back in the 1790s, you know, they had fought a war against the all-powerful King of England and the British Empire. And they're thinking, how do we create a new country in which one person will never, ever have the kind of power that the King of England has? So with a lot of debate, and these were really smart guys, a lot of debate, they said, you know what we are going to do is create a government and a constitution which has a separation of powers. And that means we're going to have a executive branch and a president, a lot of power. We're going to have a Congress, a lot of power. We're going to have a judicial branch, a lot of power. And that is what they put together. And that is precisely what Donald Trump today is trying to undermine. First Amendment to the Constitution is the all-important freedom of speech. And in a way that is unprecedented, Trump is trying to intimidate the media and anyone who speaks out against them. He loves the media when they fawn all over him. But like other cowards, he can't stand to be criticized. Trump has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and he sued the Des Moines Register because he didn't like a poll that they did. His FCC is now threatening to investigate PBS and NPR. He has called CNN and MSNBC illegal. In other words, the so-called leader of the free world is afraid of freedom. Well, Mr. President, if you are too cowardly and too vain to accept criticism, then get out of politics. Because that is precisely what democracy is about. That's what the beauty of democracy is about. It's for your ideas and my ideas, and we argue about them, and we vote on them. It's not do as I want, or I'm gonna investigate you. But it is not just the media that he is going after. He's going after the constitutional responsibilities of Congress. Congress, under the Constitution, has the power of the purse. And every day, he is challenging that, slashing funding without authority that only Congress can do. Trying to wipe out agencies that Congress has created and only Congress can eliminate. But it's not only the media and Congress that he is going after. The third branch of government is the judiciary, and what they are supposed to do, what the federal courts do, is rule on whether laws are constitutional in their judgment or not, what the president does, constitutional or not. And there have, let me tell you, been many decisions coming down from this Supreme Court that I abhor. Their Citizens United decision, one of the worst decisions ever rendered. Their decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a horrible decision. But those of us who live by the rule of law understand they have their powers, we have our powers. But now, for the first time, what Trump is doing is saying to a judge who issues a ruling, we don't like that ruling, we're going to get you impeached. President Trump, millions of Americans have fought and died to preserve American democracy. We're not going to let you take it away from us. And we thank all of those veterans who put their lives on the line to defend democracy. But it's not just oligarchy and authoritarianism that is on our minds. All over this country, people are standing up, and they're saying we will not accept a society of massive income and wealth inequalities, a society in which the very rich are getting much richer while millions of working families are struggling to put food on the table. And what people are saying is that in the richest country in the history of the world, we are going to fight for and create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. All right, I'm going to do something radical now. You ready? I'm going to tell you the truth. I know, pretty radical, but what the hell? Only go around once. And I want to take a few minutes to describe to you what is really going on in this country. And it's something that you don't see much in the corporate media, and you certainly don't hear discussed in the halls of Congress. And that is, in America today, we have two separate Americas. On one hand, we have an America in which the wealthiest people have never, ever in the history of our country had it so good. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. Today, we have three multi-billionaires, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Zuckerberg. These three combined own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million Americans. Now, we don't talk about it much for obvious reasons. But the idea that so few have so much and so many have so little is not what this country is supposed to be about. And further, let's take a look at concentration of ownership in the economy. You know what we hear? Kids read in school books. We're a society. People go out and they start their own small businesses. Free enterprise is great. Everybody competes against each other. That ain't the case. Today, you have more concentration of ownership in America than we have ever had in the history of this country in sector after sector. Whether it is agriculture, transportation, media, financial services, what you have is a small number of extraordinarily large corporations who charge us outrageous prices for the products that we have to buy. Let me mention just one example of concentration of ownership today. Nobody talks about it. Today, you got three Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. You ever hear of these companies? Combined, these three investment firms are the majority stockholders in 95% of American corporations. And these guys, I want to tell you something because I bump into them in my line of work. They are not nice guys. I know on TV they come across, and in your community they make a donation to the hospital or the Boys and Girls Clubs or the food shelf. They're just very nice, but they're not. You know, in America today, as I think all of you know, sadly and tragically, and we've got to deal with it, we have major epidemics dealing with addiction. I think we lost 100,000 Americans last year because of drug overdoses, serious problem in my state. We have people addicted to alcohol, serious problems with alcoholism. We have people who are addicted to tobacco. My father smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and he died before he was 60. People addicted to food. But I will tell you this, in the midst of all of these addictions, the worst and most dangerous addiction we have is the greed of the oligarchs. Now, everybody wants to do well in life. Everybody wants to make money. But you would think that if you had a few $1 billion or 10 or 20 billion dollars, you would not feel obliged to step on the backs of poor people to become even richer. But that That is exactly what they are doing right now. They are prepared to destroy Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, the Veterans Administration in order to make themselves even richer. And these guys have no sense of what goes on in the real world. They live in another planet. They own mansions all over the world. They go on vacations to their own private islands. When they want to go someplace, they don't go into the car. They go into the planes or the helicopters that they own. Send their kids to the best private schools and colleges. That is their world. Let me tell you about another world, the other America that we don't talk about. And that is today in the richest country in the history of the world, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what paycheck to paycheck is? Some of you live in paycheck to paycheck. I grew up in a family, lived paycheck to paycheck. Know a little bit about that. And what that means is people today are wondering, how are they going to pay their rent if their landlord raises the rent by 20%? How are they going to pay $20,000 a year for childcare when they're only making $50,000 a year? People want to buy decent, good quality food for their kids. Walk into a grocery store, can't afford that food because the prices of food are sky high. People get sick, their kids get sick. They're uninsured or underinsured, and they're saying, how in God's name am I going to be able to take my kid to the doctor's office? At the end of the month, people have thousands of dollars in credit card debt, paying 20, 30% interest rates. How the hell do I pay those rates? And what happens if my car breaks down? Something as simple as that happens every day. And I go to the car shop, and the guy says $1,000. Get it fixed. I don't have the $1,000. What do I do? What do I do if I can't get my car and I can't get to work? And if I can't get to work, I get fired. And if I get fired, how do I take care of my family? You know why the American people are angry, and they are angry all over this country? They are angry because, believe it or not, despite a huge increase in worker productivity over the last 52 years, if you could believe it, real inflation accounted for wages today are lower than they were 52 years ago. Meanwhile, there has been a $75 trillion transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That is what a rigged economy is about, and that is what we are going to change. So let's also take a look at other aspects of American society. Anybody here think our healthcare system is working well? It is a broken and dysfunctional and cruel healthcare system. We are spending twice as much per capita on healthcare. We're spending $14,000 for every man, woman, and child. Yet 85 million are uninsured or underinsured. Do you know what underinsured means? How many people here have high deductibles? What kind of deductible do you have, ma'am? Do you know? $7,500. What do you got? How much? $20,000. Deductible, what do you got? $9,000. $8,000. $7,000. All right. What does all of that mean? It means that even though you have insurance, when you get sick, you still can't afford to go to the doctor. How insane is that? And you know what the result is? We don't talk about it much. 60,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to a doctor on time, because they're uninsured or they're underinsured. And I want to deal with another issue. You'll excuse me for being professorial here and a little bit boring. But it's important that we know this. And here's again a fact never or very rarely talked about. Right? Here's the fact. Despite spending so much on healthcare, our life expectancy, how long we live, is about 4 years younger, 4 years shorter than other major countries. That's bad. That is bad. But I want to tell you what is even worse, and I want you all to think about it and help me out here. If you are working class in America, you will live on average about 7 or 8 years shorter lives than if you are wealthy. In other words, being working class in America is a death sentence. All right, question. Why is that? Why is that? Raise your hand. Tell me why. Yes, ma'am. Why? Stress? All right, stress. Let me deal with that. All right. The woman here said stress. And she's absolutely right. What kind of stress are working class people living under today? Who wants to help me out on that? Hold on. 1 and a half. I can't get you all. Yes, I see a hand there, ma'am. Survival. Okay. Stress means you're trying to survive every week. Okay, more. Ma'am?
I own a small business, but I can't get a corporation to pay the fucking bills.
I own a small business and I can't get corporations to pay their bills. Yes, ma'am. Financial stress. Yes, ma'am. Taxes. Tuition. Yup, way back there, ma'am. What? Safety. Okay, yes. What? Dental. Dental work. Thank you for raising that issue. Anybody have a problem with the cost of dental care in America? Bloody right. All right, other issues. Yeah, I see I have young man back there. Yeah. Workplace safety. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mental health. All right, look, we can spend 2 hours going on here. All right, but here is the bottom line. When you are struggling paycheck to paycheck, you are worried about how you survive every single week. And doctors call this almost the physiology of poverty. That stress that you live with 24 hours a day eats away at your body and your mental health. And that is the major reason why working class people are dying 7 years. For working class people dying 7 years earlier than the rich. There is no excuse that 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford to fill the prescriptions that their doctors write for prescription drugs. There is no excuse that in the richest country on earth, 800,000 Americans are homeless, and 20 million people, including people in this room, pay 40–50% of your incomes for housing. No excuse that our child care system is a disaster, outrageously expensive, while workers there are being paid low wages. No excuse that our public schools are struggling, trying to get teachers. No teacher in America should make less than $60,000 a year. So my friends, why is all of this happening? Why is it that the rich get richer and working class people die younger than they should? Well, it has everything to do with the fact that we're living in an oligarchic form of society. You know, I've been talking about that for a few years. But I think the rest of the world is catching on to what I was talking about. And the reason is you got to be dumb and blind not to see what's going on. You got a President Trump getting inaugurated, and I must tell you, one of the more bizarre experiences of my life was I was kind of pushed into the front row of that. And there I am, there's Trump, and right behind him, you got Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg. Three wealthiest guys in the country. And then behind them, you got 13 other billionaires who Trump nominated to head up various government agencies. You know, Abraham Lincoln talked about a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, Trump has a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. And what these guys are busy doing right now is going after Medicaid, going after Social Security, going after nutrition. Rich want to get richer, and they don't care who they step on. Now, it is imperative that we fight Trump every step of the way. And by the way, it is not just on domestic issues. This country has a 250-year history, and never before have we had a president ally himself with a terrible dictator like Vladimir Putin. On top of that, Trump wants to continue the disastrous policies of the Biden administration and provide more funding for the Netanyahu government to destroy the people of Gaza. All right. Our job, though, is not just to play defensive. We've got to get on the offensive as well. And that means having a vision of where we as the wealthiest nation on earth, the longest standing democracy on the planet, where do we want to go? What kind of nation do we want to become? And for a start, the profound issue that must be dealt with is we must end this corrupt campaign finance system. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent. I don't think there's anybody who thinks it vaguely makes sense that the richest guy in the world could spend $270 million to get Trump elected and then become the most powerful person in the government. It's not just Republicans, let's be clear. Billionaires are funding the Democratic Party and preventing that party from standing up for working families. Bottom line, we need to end Citizens United, move to public funding of elections. Trump wants to give massive tax breaks to billionaires. Our view, it's time that the billionaires started paying their fair share of taxes. Republicans refuse to raise the minimum wage. We want to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $17 an hour. Musk and Bezos and others want to break unions. We believe in the trade union movement. Workers all over this country want to join unions. They're being stopped by the illegal activities of corporations. We've got legislation in that will end that. Let's pass the PRO Act. Trump and his friends want to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting the cap. Trump and his friends want to cut Medicaid. Well, we got a different idea. We're going to join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all. It's a human right. We're going to fight and pass Medicare for all, single payer. In a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. Young people should not go broke or in debt because they want to go to college or a trade school. We desperately need doctors and nurses and teachers and carpenters and sheet metal workers and construction workers. We need to make sure our people get educated without going into debt. We need to make our public colleges, universities, and community colleges tuition free. We need to save the planet. And create millions of good-paying jobs by transforming our energy system. Oh, what? All right, we need an EMT, please. Well, in a free society, we must absolutely guarantee that it is the women of America who control their own bodies, not the government. Let me end on this note. And the note is that this is a very difficult time in the history of our country. It's not the first difficult time that we've had. Remember, we've gone through a civil war, we've gone through slavery, we've gone through workers trying to form unions and getting beaten up and killed. We've gone through a depression. We've gone through 1941 being attacked and not knowing how to respond. We've gone through a lot of things. But this is what I believe, in the essence of, I think, what we are about. And that is, if we stand together, if we care about each other, if you care about my family and I care about your family, if we don't believe that the goal in life is just to make billions and step on other people and to lie, cheat, and steal, if we believe that love and compassion is what motivates us, now, if there are some Republicans here, Republicans watching and on the live stream, Republicans did not vote for Donald Trump in order to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security. Believe me, they didn't. And the reason that Trump has been successful and why demagogues around the world are successful, you know what they do? They play one group off against another. They're telling you who you're going to hate. And our job is to do exactly the opposite. The right wing wants to divide us up based on the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our religion, or our sexual orientation. And our job is to come together. Now, I don't have a PhD in mathematics, but I do know this, that 99% is a hell of a lot larger number than 1%. So if we stand together, are strong, are disciplined, are smart, I have every reason to believe, deeply in my heart, that not only will we defeat Trumpism, but we can create the kind of nation that we deserve. Thank you very much.